Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Thanks for joining me for episode 3 of the Complete Course Construction series. In the previous episode, we worked on the green complex of the first, as you see here. And so in this episode, gonna extend and work our way back towards the tee. Put the fairway in, and if you remember from that first episode, or that second episode, the kind of plan of this hole is that an aggressive drive down the left that's challenging the outbounds and maybe challenging a bunker in here will give you the better line into the green. Kind of takes these bunkers out of commission a little bit, takes some of the internal contouring of the green out, whereas a sort of more defensive drive kind of down the middle or right side of the fairway, away from the trouble. Firstly, your ball is going to be canted off to the side and collect more down here, which means we're going to be coming in over these bunkers, over this mound, and just have a little bit of a tougher time in general attacking this green. I think with the slope and with the angles that we're working with, we can afford to have the fairway quite wide. So what's that, kind of looking at 60 yards wide? Probably needs to be around there to allow balls to collect down this side. I don't really want balls pitching in the middle of the fairway and running off and ending up in the rough down here. And possibly, depending on how we're looking, I'm tempted by the idea of putting a bunker in here. Something to almost protect against the road a little. We kind of want a bit of a buffer. That's going to be out of bounds, but it's going to be a long way out of bounds. Don't really want kind of narrow misses ending up on the road and attacking any traffic. That's definitely a lawsuit waiting to happen. So what I generally do is kind of try and find a natural site for the fairway to sit, a natural edge for it to follow, based on the contours, and then kind of go from there. So I think I want these pot bunkers to be surrounded by light rough. And I probably want fairway kind of falling into this one at the front, and fairway falling into this one at the front as well, to effectively increase the size of their footprint. But I want this face to be grass, to be longer grass. So that probably means that the fairway probably a little bit higher up there, to give that kind of grass face. Follow around there, maybe a little too sharp. So then there's going to be like a collection area, definitely a collection area in here behind this bunker. So sort of follow the same strategy with the rough here, that I want it to pretty much get the crest of the hill. So this is going to be light rough. Fairway's probably going to... It would make sense to sit on one of these flat spots, wouldn't it? I think probably that one. And then, yeah, like I say, don't mind the fairway being quite wide. There's sort of a natural contour for it to follow down there. Somewhere in there, maybe, yeah. So this is all kind of just rough guidelines that just give me somewhere to kind of look at and work and sort of begin from. This bit needs flattening. I've obviously attacked this with a fairly sharp brush. Probably want the collection area to be... Could it come out all the way out here? I kind of want the balls to be collecting on the fairway rather than running into the rough, because it will potentially take them further away from the green as well. And I tend to like bigger playing surfaces, just from experience and for... I will admit, anyone that knows me will know that I tend to struggle with planting, so having a bigger playable surface, that just means that's areas that don't need to be planted, which is convenient for me. But so I'm going to have to attack this in a few sections with how the bunkers are sitting in the fairway. So let's just do this kind of first section around the green and see where we can go after there. Probably I'm going to overdo it on the waypoints again, which will probably drive some of you a bit crazy, and for that I'm sorry. But it's just how I go. I will try and work on that throughout the series, and try and not overdo it so much. But I've had a few comments so far, so it seems like you guys are getting behind it, sort of enjoying it. If there's anything at all that you'd like to see me do different, or like to see me incorporate, how long you think an episode should be, anything like that, please let me know. I've had a couple of comments, and as I'm sure everyone at this point now knows, comments are good for the YouTube algorithm. So I feel like I have to say that. That's kind of any new video content creator is sort of contractually obligated, aren't they, at this point? So that fairway just wants smoothing, and we're going to bring it in around this bunker. And I'm going to need to pick textures at some point, which is, again, something that I'm probably not as good at as I'd like to be. But maybe that's something that you guys can chime in on as well, if you think I've not done the course justice and think that I should re-look at what textures I'm using. Feel free to call me out on it, and I will try and make something a bit more fitting. So, I know a lot of people can kind of pick textures from the start and pick their exact look of their course, but I tend to tweak a lot, make changes as I go, and don't necessarily end up with what I started with. So if we get rid of these lines, I quite like that as a complex. I want the left side to be a bit more interesting. I probably want almost all of this. I definitely want this tee to be in or on the fairway. I'm probably going to just go kind of road height. So this is all going to maybe smooth that down to the point that it's just a gentle runoff off that tee. That could work, couldn't it? So the British Open is on. We've just had the Scottish Open, the Genesis Open. So I feel like, at the very least, subconsciously, that might influence some of the design choices I'm making. But this isn't meant to be a links course. It's kind of, I guess, parkland if I had to define it, but it's going to be just sitting in this patch of ground near a road in Wales is pretty much how it's looking. So do I want another tee box maybe? Or maybe we cross that bridge when we come to it. That this can sit, it just pretty much wants to sit as a straight line, doesn't it? Along the edge of the plot here. Does it? And maybe it follows this mounding in that way. Maybe that makes a little more sense. Whether it sits at the top or the bottom, maybe I take a look at flattening this out a little bit and see if I can make this sort of terrain movement make a little more sense, look a bit more natural, because I quite like the idea of it being a nice big green site. Maybe it follows there, but then am I rewarding or failing to punish getting close to the road? I'm not sure. I'm not really sure anyone's trying to hit their ball here, so it doesn't necessarily directly matter what surface it is, because we're still going to be faced with an awkward chip kind of downhill to a green that's running ever so slightly away from us. I suppose it's going to be naturally slightly easier coming off the fairway than out of the rough. But I do want to get away from the edge of the road, and I feel like that's possibly a good sort of natural feature to define the edge of the fairway. Because, of course, challenging the road is sort of the challenging the out of bounds aspect, but in the kind of interest of sort of a realistic use of the hazard, I don't want to be running right up against it, because imagine cars driving along it, golfers hitting their ball through the windscreen. Probably not the ideal situation, but we'll have 12 or 15 yards of heavy rough down this side, and possibly an opportunity to put a nice bunker in here. That's a very boring shape one. I could maybe go for like a bit of a peanut shape, just to add a bit more interest to it, and bank up this back edge, flatten the base of it, and that could be a little bit of fun and kind of indicate that there is still trouble here. And then obviously like a massive miss left is going to be on the road, but that's kind of a little miss left. We're sort of flirting with it to try and keep our ball on the upper side of this fairway, this upper edge. So I think maybe just following that kind of natural shape. Can put a little bit of planting in here, maybe some heavy rough, some long grasses. That'll make a lot of sense. And again, there's still like this natural, like the foot of this slope. And to be fair, the shape of the fairway back here doesn't matter all that much in terms of playability, because no one's hitting a 9-iron off the tee to lay up here and then have to lay up again. So this is just kind of a visual thing, and I think it's going to be more interesting later in the round how it looks coming in on these holes. So probably want it to be, again, well, it's definitely got to go somewhere where it's making sense, and I quite like perhaps showing off how wide the fairway is going to be on the first. We have got 12 foot of height difference from left side to right side, and it's definitely, well, the plan, as mentioned, for the hole is to be coming in from this left side. So I think it makes sense to have a bunker in here. I think maybe, am I happy with it sitting here? Probably not blasting it over the end of the bunker here at 311, because to be hitting it here is going to be probably a fast or a pull, which isn't going to go, not going to go the full distance of a normal shot. So that does make sense, but then a really bad shot is possibly going to have an opportunity to recover. It's sitting slightly high. I think I can get on board with putting a bunker in here. So that's probably best if I flatten this, isn't it, really? And I'm going to go with that inner kind of peanut shape as opposed to the more boring regular oval. So we're looking at, well, I'm looking at that height indicator in the top left, where it's telling me that I'm 411 below the height of the tee. I think that's above the height of the tee, isn't it? I always get the arrow the wrong way around. I have to go and check myself. But I'm using that as a visual guide to confirm if I'm actually flattening or if I'm changing the height. I should probably actually raise the back edge of this bunker before I flatten the whole shape, because I'm going to want to raise it up to give a lip that can be seen, because it's going to be like a flat bottom bunker with a bit of a grass face. So happy to bump this up, and the sand is going to sit right up to kind of where it starts, where the grass starts sort of sloping up, and it can maybe just leak into the fairway a touch. Don't necessarily think it needs to, and if I can make this transition just a little bit more natural as well, have it sit a bit more just tidy looking, I guess. Try not to make it look super artificial. I don't mind if it kind of looks like this area's been dug out and dumped here, because in effect that's what would have happened. But I would like it to kind of look at least like some sort of effort has been made to have it sitting in a nice looking natural environment. And kind of maybe accentuate the slopes around it and where I'm shaping it. Can probably even have like some kind of bushy, grassy planting running along this left side, up near the base of the road, up near the wall. I imagine it's probably a little bit more difficult for the green staff to get their equipment up here. Probably not going to bother too much. You're not meaning to hit your ball up here, so why should they bother maintaining where... oh, I didn't mean to click there. My bad. So now, I can use that 411 guideline again. Oh, 410 now. I've changed quite significantly. Well, not significantly, I've changed by an inch. Just want everything to sit at the right height, and then I'm going to have to come in and sort of flatten the bunker again anyway, because the sand texture messes things up a little. But I suppose it's a little bit of a treat for you. I have kind of come up with a really, I guess, weird way of making sure that the sand in the bottom of the flat bottom bunker sits nice and flat. So let's go to chuck the sand in, and I want it on kind of where it's already flat. That will save some of the work I need to do if I can kind of get the shape right first time. But obviously the bunker has its own automatic kind of flattening thing that goes on, or automatic sculpting thing that goes on, where it sort of bowls out the bottom of the bunker, and sometimes that's all right, but when we want a flat bottom bunker, that's kind of not what we're after. So if I get copy the spline, sharpen it, no, smooth it even. If I get the bunker kind of the shape that I want, I can then come in with a water plane and sit it at the height of the sand, and you can see that basically the edge of the bunker is nearly at one height. If I do that and then do the water plane trick so that I can see the surfaces that I've got going on under it, I find that I can then come in with a raised brush or a flattened brush and just nudge things around a little and get it so that the sand is sitting almost exactly at the height of the water plane, which then means that I've got a pretty much flat bottom bunker, because by definition it should be all sitting at the right level. This is a trick that I used on my challenge circuit course, and so now I'm using it here again. So I guess I'm sort of in danger of kind of making the same kind of style course, but we'll see what I can do. I'm going to try not to rely on it too much. I'm going to see if just see where the course takes me, I guess, and try and go from there. And obviously some of the guys can just look at land, look at plots, and make things happen. Some of us have to kind of rely on the same tried and tested methods a little. I think I'm sort of going to be somewhere in between those two on this plot. I feel like there are some holes, like that short par 3 over the water, that's pretty much going to design itself. There are some holes that I'm certainly going to have to work a bit harder on. And interestingly, I've found that often the holes that I'm least happy with tend to be the holes that I get the best feedback on. So that, to me, suggests that maybe I overwork things and overthink them, which I wouldn't be surprised if that was entirely true. So I'm going to try not to worry too much about kind of how I'm envisioning the hole being played, because I guess I kind of want the golfer to have some options and have that agency to decide how they think best to play the hole, rather than kind of presenting an obvious, this way is better but a harder tee shot and an easier approach shot, or this way is an easier approach shot. I can't remember which way around I said the first one, but whatever I said first, the opposite, which I find is kind of a thing that I can almost rely on doing quite a lot, which is not necessarily ideal. Because then you find that maybe you're asking the same question quite a lot, which is probably some variation on how close to this bunker do you want to hit your drive, and the closer you get it, the more kind of rewarding your angle into the green is. So yeah, kind of variety is one of the things that keeps courses interesting. So that's going to be something that I'm trying to focus on here. But as you can see, just kind of trying to get the bunker sitting as close to the water plane as possible in kind of every place. It doesn't have to be perfect because it's going to sort of be a visual inspection from the golfer as much as anything, but the closer the better. I think this back edge needs to come down quite a lot. I've taken that too high away from the water plane, and I think I probably need to make the grass bank a little steeper. Not sure. That kind of works, but I want this sitting closer to the grass. Sorry, closer to the sand. So maybe increasing the height of it there. And then we have a sharper bank next to the sand. And that's gonna work, I think. I might have to come in and plant heavy rough over it because I don't want that messy texture. I want a grass-faced bunker rather than like a rocky-faced bunker. But then once we're broadly happy with how things are, come in and get rid of the water bodies, and then we're left with, for the most part, a flat bottom bunker. That back edge needs tweaking, and I'm not happy with this bit here. So that's something I'm kind of gonna have to work on. But sometimes that can be easier kind of without the use of the water plane, because then I can kind of under stress getting things too perfect and it negatively affects other parts of the bunker. So for example, it doesn't have to be perfectly flat. In fact, oftentimes you want a bit of a fall on the bunker so that you can kind of see into the sand. So I might now come in and lower this back edge a little, and hope that maybe I have to take this mound out as well. And then if I can see into the sand from the tee, let's have a play test. Just about. But then obviously if we zoom in, I'm not happy with that bunker shape, so that might be something that I play around with. Yeah, it's maybe too long for how narrow it is. That might be something that I come back to. Just kind of broadly showing off that trick for the time being. And then it probably means that, well, I want to bring the fairway closer to that bit. But if I'm going to change the shape of the bunker, then I don't want to bring the fairway close to where that bunker is. So I'm going to leave it for now. And I guess, and if anyone in the comments has any kind of particular feeling on what should be done with it, let me know. I'm thinking that maybe I want a bit of a bigger base here that comes in nice and tight, and the same on this side. That's probably coming in too tight, isn't it? Comes in like that, and then this side comes in to maybe there. So I know that's a bit of a mess, but if you can kind of picture that, I think that might work. But let's put the fairway in now up around the green, and we can maybe start hitting some approach shots in to see how our kind of roughly sculpted green is going to react from various different angles, from various different types of shots. Probably going to make a bit of a change up there with regards to that tee box, but I do want the tee box to be connected. I quite like when there's like large connected surfaces on courses. It's a very, very common on some of the really nice heathland courses, where I particularly remember playing Walton Heath, and a lot of the holes, the next tee is just 3 steps off the back of previous green, just all part of one connected surface. So yeah, overdoing the waypoints again. So to anyone who's having a hard time watching that, I'm sorry, but I'll just slam in this kind of half of the fairway, I guess, for the time being. And then if I smooth that out, we can get rid of the measure tools and see how we're looking. I think that's starting to look quite nice. We've got a little bit of interesting natural contours. I'm going to flatten this bit out because that just looked a little bit awkward. And I actually want to flatten out some of where the fence is running as well, because the shadow is just, oh sorry, not where the fence is running, but where the shadow of the fence is running, because again, just a little bit awkward looking. So just try and fix that up a bit without overdoing it. And I suppose that's kind of had the effect of making a bit of a flat area here as well, so it's just probably a little bit out of driver range for me to play test the drive. Let's see if we can get there. I might have to crank out 105% lofted drive, but yeah, I guess that's kind of almost a bit of a sucker shot if we want to try and find that small plateau. I could maybe even extend the fairway around here a bit, but then maybe we're getting a bit too close to the road, and that would really reward this shot, this angle. And then remember, the fairway is going to go much further down the right here, but any drive that's kind of pitching here is going to run further right, and then we're coming in potentially, especially considering if the pin is in that back right little bowl section, we're coming in from a fairly punishing angle over. It's like kind of competing contours, one pushing your ball left, one pushing your ball right, so not exactly 100% sure where your ball's going to go. Coming in over this bunker, we'll have a drop off on the right, another bunker on the right, distance control being a bit key, so hopefully that's kind of ramping up a bit of the danger around the approach. Just about made the fairway, and hitting it in the middle has bounced further down to the right, so you can imagine that maybe coming into a pin back here, we haven't put it in quite the perfect location. I think there's certainly room for some changes to be made to this green site. It's just kind of roughly sculpted in at the moment. You can ignore this pin as a location because it's just slapped in the middle of the green. But hopefully there's going to be some nice views to ease you into the round, especially if we're putting from the left side of the green. So yeah, I'll get to sketching in the rest of this fairway, following what I've marked out there, and we'll see how that looks. So perhaps when there's bits of dead air, I suppose, where I'm don't necessarily have to explain what I'm thinking at any given moment in terms of building the course. If you guys had any questions that you'd like me to cover outside of kind of my thoughts and philosophies on golf course design and how I go about playing and enjoy myself on 2K23, then yeah, down in the comments again. Nice place to leave them, and I'll see what I can do. See, without doxing myself, I guess. Let you guys know a little bit about me. But I did mention in my first YouTube video, I made a playthrough of Valley Bobbing. Of course, I mentioned earlier. I'm a greenkeeper at Leeds Castle Golf Club. I do play golf. Play off about 10. I think at the moment it's officially 9.7 or so. But it's a very, very hacky 10. I don't often play to it. Although I suppose that's kind of the point of a handicap, isn't it? Levels the playing field a bit, but you don't want to be setting the field alight every time, because then your handicap's too low. So if I smooth that in, and then just fill in this last corner, this little kind of quarter of fairway, I guess, which I've gone slightly wider than the line I sketched. I don't mind going a little bit wider because I tend not to use light rough as a kind of surrounding the fairway on my courses, which I know some people have feelings about. It tends to be a way to sort of make your courses a bit easier if you do have the light rough, because anything missing the fairway is only going to be kind of a 90% lie rather than a potentially like 60-70% lie. But I can re-sketch that bunker, can't I? I have no necessary attachment to it. And get rid of the lines, but I'll go back to the first tee, and yeah, definitely need to change up the textures just to make the fairway a little bit more visible, as much as anything. Might be worth having a look at changing the lighting as well, but not quite sure what shape tee boxes I'm going to go with. For the time being, I've just slapped some round ones down, but I can definitely tell that I want to hit my drive down this left side to avoid running all the way down here. Bad shot potentially even collects back here, or if I have like a bad contact. Hit that just a little fast, but not too bad. It's going to kick a little right to the middle of the fairway, so perhaps I could exaggerate the fall even more, because that's kind of pitched, well, I suppose that pitched left centre of fairway, and I would like anything that's kind of hugging the left side to stay on the left. It's fallen not too punishing, might be a little bit difficult to get to a pin back here. I don't think that's overly difficult. It doesn't need to be overly difficult for a first hole, so I'm fairly happy with that. So as far as episode 3 goes, we near enough have our hole here. Kind of mid-length par 4, possibly slightly on the shorter side in video game world. Fairway's got a bit of visual interest to it, a bit of undulation. We've got that bunker that's going to be tweaked on the left side, and this green, which again could have a little bit more added to it, a little bit more nuance added to it, and the bunkers, which need a bit more shaping up, a bit more sculpting. But as far as a golf hole goes, I certainly feel like this is close to one at the very least. So perhaps episode 4 will be touching this up, and then we'll move on and have a look at something else. But thanks very much for watching, guys. If you've enjoyed it, be sure to drop a like. If you're looking forward to the next one, maybe subscribe, and I'll catch you then. So that's going to be all from me. Bye for now.